each day is an opportunity to win something. And you go out there, whether it's a practice day or a qualifying day, even a day of prep, or at my own house or wherever it may be. It's just pushing hard each and every day. And I think that that's the work ethic that was instilled in me by my dad early on.
Hey everybody, welcome to Impact Theory. Today's guest is one of the most accomplished race car drivers of all time. In his extraordinary career, he's already clocked over 700 starts in NASCAR's top 3 divisions, making him currently the longest tenured active driver in the Cup Series. And it is no wonder he's had this kind of longevity. From the start, it was clear that he has something special. Racing before he could even get his driver's license, in quick succession, he racked up major wins and even established himself as the youngest driver to ever win the NASCAR Featherlight Southwest Series title. And from there, he was catapulted into the big leagues where he continued to prove himself to be a force of nature by quite literally posting wins in each of the different NASCAR series in which he has competed, as well as winning races on every type of track that NASCAR has to offer. He's won a staggering 31 times in the premier division of NASCAR, including wins in the Daytona 500 and Coca-Cola 600. He's made 12 appearances in NASCAR's playoffs, including 6 consecutive appearances, and he's won an overall series championship, cementing his legacy as one of the greats. And if all of that wasn't enough, he is one of only a small handful of drivers that have ever attempted double duty, a grueling double race day that goes from IndyCars to NASCAR. In the first leg of this behemoth, he did so well that with just one Indy race to his name ever, he managed to snag the Indy Rookie of the Year title. So please, help me in welcoming the future Hall of Fame driver and ferocious competitor, Kurt Busch.
Oh, wow. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Dude, happy to do it. I love meeting people that really take winning seriously, that have a champion's mindset. And I want to know, what does it take to actually fucking win at the level that you win?
Drivers can't do it on their own. There's a team aspect to it. But, you know, the spot that I'm in my career now, in my 40s, being that manager, being that motivator, and finding ways to bring more out in people, I didn't even realize I was doing that when I was younger, just with my tenacity and my youthful exuberance of pushing hard. And I think it gets down to just the simple fact of each day is an opportunity to win something. And you go out there, whether it's a practice day or a qualifying day, even a day of prep, or at my own house or wherever it may be. It's just pushing hard each and every day. And I think that that's the work ethic that was instilled in me by my dad early on.
So what does that look like in reality? Is it up at dawn? Is it working out? Is it like, how do you really, like, when the rubber meets the road?
Oh, there you go.
I promise
Nice.
you that was not intentional, but there it is. When the rubber meets the road, like, what does pushing hard look like?
It's not knowing boundaries. Whether you're up at 3 to go travel somewhere and then you're on track, or if it goes into business dinners, past 10 p.m. some nights, you're on call 24/7. I think I grew up in a fun town. I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, right? And the city that never sleeps was part of my backyard. And you see a different life growing up there, and blending that into racing, it's the same way. You just never know what's going to happen around the next corner. And I think it's just making sure that you're available at all times, no matter what happens.
One of the things that certainly I've experienced in my own life, and looking at people that really do extraordinary things, there's an element of hunger. Like, you just have to want shit. And so few people, I find, it's not that they don't have the talent, it's that they really don't want it badly enough. And that is definitely a soapbox that I have mounted many a time in my life to preach from, is this idea that, look, if you really want to accomplish something extraordinary, you're going to have to want it so badly that you forego everything else, you push through everything else. You go to a place where people are actually worried about you. Now, I'm not somebody who's terribly familiar with NASCAR, but before I bring on a guest, I always dive way into their world to see what they're really about. And so I had the good fortune over the last like 48 hours to watch your entire career unfold. What I found really fucking interesting is you start out sort of as this hot-blooded, very fiery, getting big wins, but definitely you clearly have that hunger to win. And you've managed to keep winning throughout your career, but the way that you've gone about it, obviously it's matured, it's become maybe more tactical. I definitely don't want to put words in your mouth. What I really want to understand is what was more useful? Like, was it like the hunger was so raw and so real in the beginning that it seemed to compensate for not being as experienced? Is that valuable? Are you like, Jesus, thank God I finally got away from that? No, it really is about just tactical skills.
No, that's a great summary and a great understanding of my career that you saw with different highlights and different moments. And to circle back around to what you had talked about leading into that question was the fire and that desire to succeed and to be almost on the edge of insane, crazy. My story was in college. Mom was against racing from the beginning. Like, you got to go to school, get some grades, and graduate.
Because it's dangerous?
She didn't like it because it was dangerous. But my dad raced, and there was always a car in the garage to touch or to be part of and to help. And he always put me to work. He loved free help, and I was his best free help. But for me, I struggled in college. Why did I struggle? Literally, the books were on the back seat of my Volkswagen Bug as I was traveling around trying to find more races. So of course I'm struggling in school, flunking out, and everybody kept saying, man, this racing thing, you gotta pack it in. Get focused on life. That's how bad I had it. It was 3 jobs, 24/7, flunking out of school, and I got a lucky break.
When you think about how much you wanted to be good at that, was it a conscious effort to get excited about something that your dad was into? Did that come naturally? So I find that people break into sort of 2 camps. You've got people that found something early that they really love and they grow hungry for it without any sort of real sense of what made them hungry. And then quite frankly, the other bucket is usually just people that feel like, oh, I don't love anything like that. And there are few people that understand how malleable that trait is. Is this something that you just got early? Is it a trait that you had to build in yourself to stay hungry, to keep pushing through, certainly in the early days, but even through the ups and downs of your career? You've been so successful, you could have retired long ago. So how you keep pushing now, is that just come naturally, or do you build that in yourself?
I believe the way I was raised in a blue-collar family where we had to work hard to obtain the money that was available for racing, or frankly, just for my parents to pay their bills, we had to work hard. And my dad was a self-employed tool salesman. And I was, probably 10, 11 years old, in charge of shipping and receiving. Then I was the one that washed the truck when it got done on each Friday. It was all of these lessons that my dad was instilling in me that I didn't know. I just thought it was chores. I just thought it was part of being the family business. And looking back around on everything, it was lessons that my dad was teaching me. And when I started to race for my first time, which Mom was still, she was against it. She was like, here's a baseball bat, baseball glove, go play Little League. It's a lot safer. Clarity was all around me.
They say the hardest thing to do in sports is to hit a fastball. Watching your race footage, that did not seem true to me. Having people bumping you at 200 miles an hour, battling for a centimeter of space at that speed, with your life literally on the line, seems a lot harder. If you had to give 3 or 4 ingredients that make for an amazing driver, what are those ingredients?
I think courage is an easy one that you can recognize. And
tell me exactly, courage to what?
It's to block out the fear of this
dying?
Is dangerous.
Okay.
We're going 200 miles an hour. Do I know that? Yes. Do I have that courage inside me that says that this isn't dangerous because I've done my checklist of my safety, for the car, for myself, the tracks and where we're racing. There's tracks in Europe where they have guardrails that are at an awkward angle, and there's places that just don't have the infrastructure and the upkeep to keep a place safe to race. And when you have that courage to block that out, that's when it helps you make smarter decisions. And I think the number two thing that creates a successful motorsports driver is that intuition, to be able to not necessarily predict the future, but to be able to absorb immediately what's in your peripheral vision and apply it to make a pass or to get the speed out of the car. It's having that feel. Third thing that I think is very important to succeed in motorsports is to have that mechanical inclination of how a car works, to understand suspension, to understand the aerodynamics. That's that mechanical side of it to be successful. And in all honesty, the fourth element is what I would call timing and luck. But luck is defined in my theory by preparation meets opportunity. If you're not prepared to meet that opportunity, luck's not going to be on your side. And that's where a lot of good drivers, male, female, younger, older, they're just not able to find that right timing element to match with their luck, to make it to the big time and to be able to maintain it like I've been blessed and privileged enough to do for 20 years.
So let's go back to courage for a second. So I find that one pretty interesting, the ability to compartmentalize, to recognize the fear, but somehow put it in its place. How do you put it in its place? I mean, you've crashed enough that I would understand if you were gun shy, right? I mean, that's to have experienced it, to see it as one thing. You described it as getting in the ring with a heavyweight and having him punch you in the head as hard as he can. And I thought, even one that you walk away from sounds like it sucks. So how do you, even with the successive number of times that you've put yourself in that situation and it doesn't work out, like how do you manage, how do you still compartmentalize? And I'm asking this question very much because there is someone watching right now, I promise, and they don't know how to compartmentalize that. So even just to give a quick preamble to make it accessible to people, this, what you do in the car is exactly what I had to do with speaking. I used to have crippling anxiety. I could not get up in front of a small group, let alone a big group. So I had to find a way to stop what I call rehearsing the failure. And so that was one of the ways that I put that away. The second my mind tried to go to it, I would stop it. I would do what they call pattern interrupting, and I would literally put that away. If I had to fucking imagine putting it in a box and closing the lid, like I would do whatever I needed to do to literally compartmentalize that. But I'm not traveling at 200 miles an hour. So how do you compartmentalize?
I think the key is I'm not stupid enough to step into a ring with a heavyweight fighter. You just don't do that. What am I, 150 pounds? Am I flyweight, welterweight? I don't know what division I would be if I was a boxer. But my point to this is you don't start at the heavyweight division. I met Ty Murray, a professional bull rider, probably about 15 years ago. And we got into some moonshine. We were talking. He was at a NASCAR race, and he's like, "Kurt, you're just not ready to be a bull rider." I'm like, "Well, I didn't ask to be." and I go, well, "Wait, what does it really take?" And he says, "You don't just start on a big bull. We'll get you on a little cow. But I first need you to do 10 pull-ups right now. I need to check your core strength. I'm going to go put you on the balance beam. And we're going to go through a gymnastics course to check your balance, your footwork, your ability and agility to stay focused when that animal's underneath you." And it's that preparation. It's that process to prepare and to be ready. And so I'm sure some of your first speaking engagements weren't with tens of thousands of people watching. It was maybe 30. It was still rough, but you got through those, right? That's the preparation that all of us in any sport go through. That's behind the scenes, is you work your way towards the top. You just don't start there.
So preparation, it's come up a few times. I'll tie it to intuition. Tell me if you think that they really are linked. So a lot of times, so I didn't have business instincts when I started. So I had to accept that I could build them, that I could prepare enough, I could repeat exposure enough that I would actually get to the point where I was training my intuition so that it would become something where I would see something and know there's something not right here. And then I could dive in. Once I had the feeling, I could dive in and assess why that was there. Whereas in the beginning, I didn't have a feeling. I have no idea, is this right, wrong, or indifferent? So it seems true to me that preparation, part of that repetition pattern, is actually training your quote unquote gut instincts. You don't have to be born with them. Does that ring true to you, or do you feel like, no, this was something I was born with and the preparation is something else?
I think it's a factor of all of it together. You're born with it, but you have to continue to practice it. You're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with.
You really don't have anything more to prove. Why do you keep going at something dangerous? What drives you now?
For me, I still love it. That feeling of putting on the helmet, pulling the belts tight, and outsmarting the competition. It's that work ethic that my father instilled in me when I was young. And you know, you're right. Yes, there's nice trophies on the shelf. There's been huge moments in the sport that I'll never forget. There's been great bonus checks that have come in, and but to be a veteran right now in the sport of NASCAR, to be over 40 and to have a youth wave coming in, you know, I look at it as, okay, if there's a bunch of new guys being pushed in and team owners are heading that route, well, they don't have this many years of experience. I've already got a one-up just by taking the green flag. You know, the opportunity to give back to this sport that has given me so much, I feel like I'm in a safe environment and confident enough in myself to teach young engineers, crew members, marketing guys, everybody. I feel like I have a PhD in motorsports from these 20 years of all these categories. And one big inspiration for me, though, was my trips to Walter Reed and Bethesda medical centers for our military, seeing those men and women who've given the ultimate sacrifice and who have sustained injuries and have even lost their lives and their loved ones through, you know, the protection of this country. I have a ticket giveaway program that I do for our military, and I buy 100 tickets to every NASCAR race for our military guys, for our men and women who have served and who are currently serving. And I've always wanted to be that guy that anybody could root for, no matter what your background, no matter where you're from in the country or in the world, that Kurt Busch is a dependable racer that we can choose that's going to get us a top 10 finish today or have a shot at winning. And that desire is still there. It hasn't changed.
That's really interesting. So you said something that if people have context in your career, they will understand it immediately. But if they don't, so you were known as the outlaw for a long time. You had a contentious relationship with the media. I think that would be a very fair characterization. You talked about sort of being given the black hat to wear, but that you never felt like that was really you. What was it like dealing with that, where there is you, the real person, and there is you, the persona, which is somewhat being created by the media? You definitely had a hand in it in terms of how you presented yourself, but how do you deal with a persona that doesn't feel like it matches you? How did you navigate those waters?
That was a tough spot. There was a few tough spots in my career for me, I feel like I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm a pretty easy guy to read.
Do you value that in yourself? Do you think that's a good thing?
I do. It's the only way that I know. And when I tried to steer into a direction to learn a different process, I felt like I wasn't me. And when I had a rough spell with the media early on, it was because, well, you guys don't know the full story, but you're showing something different. And you learn that racing isn't necessarily just about getting that checkered flag. There's an entertainment value to it. But as a kid from Las Vegas that just had the blinders on for trophies and wins and doing well at track, I had no idea of the pageantry of what goes into all of this. I had no idea. And when I had my first run-in with the media, so to speak, and everything was sideways, I said, you know what? Just calm down, just ignore all this, just go drive the car. Just take this as a lump, take this medicine. And when I turned it into the next season and went there and just focused on driving, I won the championship. And I got to do the big FU. Told you guys, I'm here to stay. I did it my way, and I won. And at the same time, I got a nice contract offer behind the scenes to switch to a different team. And that team had a big value of the formal look with how they dressed, how they talked, how they acted. And to race for Roger Penske, a legendary team owner in all of motorsport, I mean, that was a chance of a lifetime. And when I started to race for him and started having these meetings after meetings and the politics and the process, and this blue-collar kid from Vegas wasn't learning and adapting quick enough, that's when I fell into the trap again. And I just took myself out of that position. I wasn't winning as often. I wasn't in championship form as often. And it was because I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. And that's when the outlaw moniker came about, because I'm out, I'm gonna do this my way. And I actually went back to like a D-level team, like pretty low-end team in NASCAR, and treated it like my rookie season, but with 10 years of experience, and worked my way back up to a top team. I put my own self on a program, and it's been the most fulfilling portion of my career to work my way back up and now be with a top team, a top endorsement with Monster Energy, and to race, to have shots at a championship and race wins now being 41. I had to go through those moments with the media and to learn and to become more of Kurt Busch.
That's really interesting. That notion of building back up. So a lot of entrepreneurs will call and say, yo, I've done this now, I get the game. So even if I had to start from the bottom, I could really build my way back up again. That really does feel true. I certainly feel that way about myself. What did you actually do? Like, what did you actually bring to bear on a team? Because you've said that part of the four things, you've got mechanical being a huge one. So if your car isn't there, it's going to be very tough for you to pull off wins. So how did you pull off wins on a team that just didn't have the capital to give you some of the toys that the other competitors had?
Yeah, for one of the teams that I raced for, their team was based in Colorado, and 99% of NASCAR is based in the Carolinas. And here's this one team. And after every race, I'd go to Colorado. I would sleep on one of the crew members' couch. I'd go to the race shop with him at 5 a.m. I would be involved with every portion of the car, every department, and make sure that the communication was as in-depth as possible, because I felt like that's what was missing on the big teams, was the politics of, well, this lead engineer says this should be done at the wind tunnel, but the wind tunnel doesn't necessarily correlate to the racetrack in the way that you think that it does. We don't need your driver feedback, blah, blah, blah. And so I started doing that in just more depth, going an old school approach, and took that team. They were ready on their own, but we made the playoffs as a one-car, independent, individual team. And then the phone rang from a team in North Carolina offering me that same feel of, come and be involved with our team because we like your mechanical approach, we like your leadership approach, and we know that you still have that drive and that fire to compete and to win.
You mentioned your leadership style. What is your leadership style? How did you help that team galvanize and do so well?
Honesty is key for me, and the clarity that you speak with, it can't just be oh, well, I'll check into that. That's the worst. I hate, oh, I'll get around to that. I'll get back to you. I hate follow-ups to follow-ups. That's the worst. When it can be clear and honest, those are the people that I like working for me on my team, whether it's with the race team, whether it's the marketing team, the licensing on selling items around a driver's identity. It all has to be clear and it has to be honest.
So you give them the honesty, you tell them, I'm assuming some of it is, this is your role, this is your job, you've got to do it. I'm assuming some of it is bonding, engaging with them, being there. And I suppose some of it is going to have to be you performing your best on the track and delivering results. One thing that I find interesting when I look at leaders that I really admire, people that, especially in times of war, people that lead from the front, that's always super interesting. And there's no doubt that you as the driver have the most pressure on you and you're the one that's really putting yourself at risk. How do you leverage that? Like, would you ever, I showed up today and you guys didn't? Like, do you feel that you earn sort of the right to push people a bit more when you're out there killing it? How does that work in your mind?
For me, I think being a judge of character is important, and knowing people's background and how they've arrived at their position. An engineer from Purdue University is going to act different than a collegiate guy that's your pit crew member that jumps over the wall, who's going to be different than somebody that's from up in the Northeast, where they might have had a tougher upbringing. I feel like it's key to bring the best in somebody's background and what they're good at.
I want to talk about competitiveness. So I was surprised that you didn't list that as one of the key ingredients for a driver. You seem to have it in fucking spades. You raced against your own...
I just assume you got to have it. When you...
Yeah, well, the funny thing is I didn't have it growing up, so that was definitely something I had to develop. I had to first recognize that it had value and then put myself at risk. Because the reason I didn't like competition was that meant that I could lose. And I thought that meant something in terms of my worth as a human being. So I was really... outwardly saying that competitiveness is stupid. I don't know why people are so, Neanderthal about it. Like, what the fuck? Like, I was super judgmental about it. But the real truth was I was afraid if I competed, I would lose. And I didn't want to lose because that would make me feel badly about myself. So finally, once I realized, whoa, there's actually real power in here. Once I embrace being competitive, then it brings out aggression. Aggression is one of those things you usually hear in a negative connotation, but I will tell you right now, before I speak, one of the things that I say, my little mantra as I get in my version of a car, is that I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to be raw, I'm going to be completely present, and I'm going to be aggressive. And embracing aggression, embracing like, I'm here to fucking win. I'm not here just to play. I'm not here to touch one life or whatever it is that people say, oh, as long as I impact one person like I've done, fuck that. Like, I'm here to be the best of all time, and I'm holding myself accountable to that. And my thing is, how you believe, how you think, all this stuff, it's going to impact how you behave. Now, how you behave ultimately is the only thing that actually matters. But when I look at you racing against your dad and beating him, racing against your brother and sometimes winning, sometimes losing, but really fucking competing, man, and really going after people and really trying to win, that there is looking at you, and one day they will look back on your legacy and they will talk about what you accomplished. And I promise that is going to come up. Like, this was somebody who played to win, and that some people will say too harsh, it's too much, it's too close to obsession, whatever. Dude, I honestly, looking at it, seems to be one of the like absolute secret ingredients. Your desperation to fucking win is why you take the chances and the risks and do the work and all of that. To put a fine point on it, I'll say again, what was it like to compete against your dad?
And so early with my racing, it was family fun. It was a hobby. It was dad and son time, father-son time. It was perfect. And
did he always let you win?
No, he was as competitive as ever.
So even when you were young, he's like, I'm going to win.
Yeah, I mean, when I played Little League, I played to win. When I played Pop-A-Shot, I played to win. If I was bowling, I played to win. And my dad is a national champion in this racing division that he was racing in, and I beat him in my second time out on the track. We didn't go to the track when we were kids to make friends. And it was to bring home that trophy. That's the different mindset. I think that some people went to the track and it was social hour. It was just a fun, okay, yeah, we're just going to do this because little Johnny or Sarah wants to drive a car. We went there to win. And that competitive top 1% effort carried with me from this division to this racing car to this. And when I made it to what you would call like the AAA ranks of NASCAR, like right there, right below the pro level, that's again where I'm just pushing through like a bulldozer, like you're saying. And that aggression ran into the good old boy South. And that's where I had some struggles of being a West Coast kid, of just hammer down, ask no questions, take no prisoners. And then you get to this good old boy system out there and they're like, hey, you need to simmer down a little bit. Because when I got to the top and kept winning, I just felt like I was going to continue to keep going, but I didn't realize I had made it to the top. This is it. And now I'm going to be around these people for more years to come. I just kept not burning bridges, because every bridge I left in place for my little brother to cross. You know, a lot of the race teams that I raced for, Kyle jumped in and kept going. I was just blazing this trail, going straight to the top with that aggression and that tenacity. And I still have those, but they're muted in different categories with the way a lot of the business operates at this level.
How do you deal with loss? How do you deal with failure? What do you tell yourself? What does that mean to you? How do you build back?
I could tell you more vividly in detail about the losses than I can about some of the wins. And the reason is because, yes, of course, there's more losses, but there's a reason that really jumps out at why the second place happened, or why there was a DNF from a wreck, or even a 22nd place finish because of a poor performance. You can really get into detail on what hampered the effort to win that day. And those are the lessons that you have to apply when you get back to that track again the next time, or quickly move forward for the next week. And that's some of the brashness that I had early in my career. Was if 4 weeks go by and we've been in the same trench, I'm already out of patience 2 weeks ago. There's some team owners or some mechanics or team personnel that are with you, but they have more of a balanced political approach to it. And then there's some that are just like, you know what, let's let 6 months go by and then we'll reevaluate. In racing timelines, that's way too long. You got to move quick. And that's what was a lot of my not balancing the professionalism with my tenacity or talent from behind the wheel.
What do you plan to do in the next phase? Like at some point, I imagine you will say, okay, I'm going to step away from driving. What do you want to see the next phase of your life? Will it be equally competitive? Is there something that you already have on tap that you want to do?
I'm sure I'll be competitive. I married a beautiful woman who is competitive in her own right. My wife, Ashley, plays competitive polo. And she has her horses, her team, and travels. And she has the same thing that I have. It's called helmet-itis. You put a helmet on and you change into a different person. I love her so much, and the way that she competes, that's an element of life that's out in front of me. I don't have a set plan. Again, I feel like I have a PhD with this motorsport arena that I've been in for the last 20 years. Is it going into coaching young drivers? Is it going into commentary to expose fans and to teach them my version of NASCAR and to try to draw in more of an audience from that side of it? The phone rang the other day about sports car racing over in Le Mans. I've got a bucket list item to race in Australia and different spots around the world. I don't know what's around the next corner, but I know that there's so many opportunities that it will be fun. It'll be organic, and it'll be because my heart and my soul told me to do it, and then I'm not trying to be somebody else.
That's cool. People that want to learn more about you, they want to engage with you, where should they go?
My social channels are all at Kurt Busch, so Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. it's funny how, my veteran fans are all on Facebook, the true hardcore are on Twitter. And, I love art. I took a bunch of photography when I was in high school, and the Instagram feed is more of the youth. And it's a perfect blend of who I represent as Monster Energy as a sponsor, Team Chevy, racing for Chevrolet, and just having the connections between my old cars and my new cars. And I still believe that it's just being honest and being out there as an organic racer. That's where people can get connected. And then I have my website, kurtbusch.com.
Love it. All right, with all that you do and the risks that you take and how hard you push yourself and your team, what is the impact that you want to have on the world?
Well, that's a heavy question. I think the best way to answer your question and to help tie in everything we've talked about today is that it doesn't matter who you are, where you came from. Hard work and perseverance is an ingredient. The courage to continue to push forth when you don't know what's around the next corner, or when people are telling you that you might have to quit, or you might have to set this aside and focus on your studies or focus on your job. I think I'm a very good candidate for leaving an impression on people of just work your butt off, learn from your mistakes, and put your boots on, tie up your bootstraps, and get out there in the world, and you can make it. I think that's an easy way to answer what I can leave on this world, is that anybody can make it out of wherever they're from.
It's a pretty cool thing to leave behind. Guys, this guy's career is extraordinary. And when you see how much work he's put in and how long he's been able to maintain success, it really is pretty breathtaking, especially when you factor in the fact that he's doing it at 200 miles an hour. Speaking of doing well over a long period of time, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. Kurt, my man.
Yeah, it's great.
Fucking amazing, dude. Hey, everybody. It's time to talk about all of our favorite subjects, mental health. Is there something holding you back or preventing you from achieving your goals, or even just interfering with your happiness? Do any of you suffer from depression or anxiety? As a lot of you guys know, I've suffered from anxiety for years, and trying to tackle something like that on your own is not always the optimal strategy. But a lot of people are super nervous to try out therapy, or they don't really know where to start, or they're just plain embarrassed. But now there's a service called BetterHelp that makes therapy more accessible and affordable. BetterHelp is professional counseling done securely online using your computer, tablet, or mobile phone through video calls, phone calls, or text messaging with licensed therapists who are certified by their state's board to provide therapy and counseling. It is not self-help, and it's not a crisis line. It's an online service available worldwide, and it has a massive network of counselors who have a broad and diverse range of specialties. So you can get a counselor with the sort of expertise that might not even be available in your local area. BetterHelp assesses your needs and matches you with a licensed professional therapist within 24 hours. You can log into your account anytime to message your counselor. And BetterHelp also has groupinar sessions every week where members can learn in groups directly from licensed counselors on multiple topics like relationships and ways to overcome anxiety. Especially if the thought of seeking help makes you nervous or embarrassed, be sure to check out the over 60,000 positive reviews posted on the BetterHelp site, and that's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. BetterHelp is committed to making it easy for you to access the therapeutic help you need, even if you have never gone to counseling before. It's free to switch therapists, it's more affordable than local therapy, and they even have financial aid available if you need it. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit betterhelp.com/impact. And again, that's spelled better, H-E-L-P. And join over 500,000 people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. BetterHelp costs just $65 per week, and financial aid is available for those who qualify during the sign-up process. As an Impact Theory viewer, you can get 10% off your first month. So visit betterhelp.com/impact and get the help you need today. All right, guys, if you need this one, please give it a shot. Take care and be legendary.
How are you going to have a positive life from negative thoughts? You can't, because you're going to perpetuate more negative thoughts. And you're going to attract vibrationally and frequency-wise people that are thinking that same way.